essential portion of my career for dealing with American affairs. I originally intended to become a Japanese expert and actually started my foreign service in Tokyo. But the North Korean nuclear crisis in 1994 that brought me into the American Bureau of Korean Foreign Ministry changed the course of my life. So I may be in a good position to make a fair comparison between the life of a Korean diplomat in Japan and that in the United States. And frankly, I have to say that it was a lot easier and more pleasant to work in the Korean embassy in Tokyo than in the embassy in Washington, D.C. First of all, there was the language factor. As a Korean speaker, Japanese was much easier to learn than English. Furthermore, speaking some Japanese was thought highly of by the Japanese Foreign Ministry, whereas my not so fluent English always gave me a hard time in the State Department. And cultural differences, other than language, also spoke a lot. Various kinds of cultural similarities provide me with a great advantage in performing my duty in Japan. But in Washington, D.C., I had to struggle with a serious handicap resulting from cultural difference. Most importantly, I recall that I was a fairly important person for the Korean department of the Japanese Foreign Ministry, but in the Korean division of the State Department, I was just one of many visitors. I have mentioned such differences between Tokyo and Washington to emphasize the difficulty or complexity when Korean people are handling their relations with American counterparts, which I think seems to be well connected to today's topic. Interestingly, even though I describe the change of my career from Japan to America as somewhat unsatisfactory, most of the people in the Korean Foreign Ministry congratulated me and sometimes envied me of making such a change of career. The reason was so simple and clear. The Korea-US relations were perceived to be so critically, incomparably important to the Korean government and people. However, as many of you might agree, the importance of Korea-US relations does not guarantee the desirability of the status of the relations. In fact, it is my belief that a great deal of work needs to be done for putting the Korean-US relations on the desirable track. Many people say that the Korea-US relations are so special or unique. I myself that the US-Korea relations are really distinguished from any other bilateral relations in this world in many aspects. But what I would like to especially draw your attention to today is that Korea and the United States are countries that have almost nothing in common. I have already mentioned the difficulty for the people of the two countries in learning each other's language. But language is just one example of very many differences in terms of culture and lifestyle and value system between the two countries. Also, when we look at the geography, history, and other aspects of society of the two countries, we may find that Korea and the United States are situated really far apart among some 200 countries in this world. And this time, let's turn our attention to how deep and close the relations between these two unlike countries have been. If I just mention one thing, more than 50,000 American soldiers were killed to save Korea from a communist invasion. And for as long as almost 60 years, about 30,000 American troops have been stationed on the soil of South Korea. In a word, the two countries have established the highest level of bilateral relations. described as a bloody alliance. On the basis of this strong military alliance, the United States had consistently provided Korea with substantial economic aid, which played a decisive role in transforming Korea from a war-torn country to a fastest growing economy. Now you may understand what the uniqueness of the Korea-US relations really means. It is unique or special in that most different two countries have forged such a strong and deep bilateral relationship. Obviously, we need to pay high tribute to the people who created this remarkable product of bilateral relations. But today, I'd like to ask you to see other side of the coin. In other words, we may have to carefully consider what kinds of problems such uniqueness of the relations may bring about. In this connection, we need to know that there existed a certain specific political or security situation on which the two countries created such a strong military alliance. That was, as you all know, Korean War, as a most vivid result of the Cold War rivalry between the United States and Soviet Union. So, if that specific special situation disappeared or substantially changed, it is very doubtful whether such a special bilateral relations based on a strong military alliance would remain intact. Moreover, once some change in the alliance begins, then the unlikeness of the two countries that I have just explained may accelerate the trend and stimulate many dormant problems to the surface. Many of you may remember that the previous Korean government, led by President Jeong-Guan, was not free from various kinds of troubles with its American counterpart. And just around that time, a sudden eruption of anti-American sentiments among young Korean people disrupted the whole society. These events during the early 21st century may have hinted us the possibility of having a serious breach in the US-Korea alliance if some proper actions are not taken. Then, what we should do to move the US-Korea alliance in a desirable direction? A simple and easy answer to that question is that we need to develop a normal, a solid bilateral relations which would not be shaken by any changes in political environment and which could overcome any unstable elements that could arise from differences between the two countries. More concretely, we may want to address the following two important problems that should be resolved for a bright future of the alliance. First, we need to pay close attention to the fact that the US-Korea alliance has been a little too one-sided. In other words, the United States has always been in a position to provide assistance to Korea. When Korea was struggling with poverty, such a benevolent position of the United States earned deep gratitude of Korean people, thereby further strengthening the alliance. But as Korea achieved a miraculous development in every field, including economy, some Korean people, particularly from the young generation, began to demand a more balanced relationship with the United States. To their eyes, such an unequal situation was damaging the prestige of their own country. And for the American people, on the other hand, such an unbalanced situation may have resulted in overlooking the importance and sometimes the sensitivity of the relations, which in turn led to another source of frustration to the Korean people.